Today's show brought to you in part by our friends at Santa Anita. You can play in Santa Anita and ExpressBet's live money contests. They're really an excellent opportunity for players. The next one is on February 19th, and this can be a great stepping stone to earning your way to the Ultimate Betting Challenge on March 5th. Might have an exciting announcement coming up soon about that one. Cash prizes as well. You can play these contests on track or via ExpressBet. If you want to check out the full live money contest schedule, go to santanita.com/contests. Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show being recorded on Friday, February 11th for the races of Saturday, February 12th. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatale. I'm very far from the Brooklyn bunker on the other part of the country over in Los Angeles. I should have opened these windows. You probably can't see it, but the San Gabriels are right there, literally across the street from Santa Anita. Looking forward to a day of racing and a weekend of fun. Hey, if anybody's got extra Super Bowl tickets they want to give away, I'm game. I'll be here. I have a feeling I'll end up in one of the local bars or breweries watching the game. But very cool to be out here for the Eclipse Awards. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. When Spencer gets here, I'm going to do that trick where you see me and then you don't. My little magic trick I like to do on these shows sometimes when I'm traveling. And Spencer Luganville, who'll be here a little bit later, is here to help me out. But we kick on, as we often do on this show, with the man you know from the work he's done on television, on his own eponymous podcast, TVs, Matt Bernier. Matt, how are things?
I'm good, Pete. I was half joking. I said, I'm proud of you. After last night, you guys get the award. I figured you were going to go on a bender all night. I didn't know if we would get the full call of the bullpen.
It probably would have made sense to do it that way, but it's not how I'm wired. So, in fact, I was up. The alarm rang early out here in California, 3 hours behind the world, as I had to grind on the Aqueduct form that I was looking at for tomorrow. And I haven't even looked at Santa Anita today yet, and I'm sitting in Logan, so I have to fire. You can't just sit there. You got to reach into your pocket when you're going to sit in the Eddie Logan suite. So I'm a little behind the eight ball, but we'll get it in off the goalpost to mix some game and sport metaphors for you.
Maybe it's just one of those old school days where you crack open the form and you just dope it out on the fly and you say, all right, I'm going to go through and say, I don't know, I like the 3 here at 4-1. And just rather than do any real deep dives, just have some funny money and fire away.
Yeah, get out of the horizontal mindset. That's the problem. Is I want to go there and get busy with all the different exotic bets, but there's no shame in race by race at all. And in fact, I sometimes have more success doing it that way because you don't lock into too many opinions. It allows you to definitely be more nimble in like a bias situation, because you can start seeing the world through that lens a little bit more than I think we all sometimes will get a little bit wedded to our paper picks when we
100%. I mean, like you say, I think it's we've talked about it before, the idea of the public handicapper, where you get so set into, well, I gave out this horse, I like this horse. I don't want to say you feel obligated to back the horse, but there's that element, at least for me, and maybe I shouldn't speak for others. But
no, I agree completely. If my name, when I have a printed pick out there, I'm betting the horse. Like, I may bet less, I may do something more exotic, but even though it's the right move to get off a horse when the price goes too short, when it's something that's out there publicly, I feel almost like it's unethical to do that, which I don't know, maybe that's silly, but I'm right there in that boat with you.
Yeah, and for me, it's more of to your point, an adjustment. If for whatever reason the horse is a fraction of the price that I thought they were going to be, or I deemed to be fair, instead of it being a proper, 1 unit or however you want to term it, maybe you just kind of throttle back a little bit and say the value's not there, but again, I want to kind of back what I gave out for everybody else to be looking at. So, and conversely,
it makes you a better analyst.
And I get to that point too, we're going the other way. And I'm guilty of almost getting a little gun shy, which I've been told many times, and understandably so, that it's the wrong attitude. If a horse that I like, that I feel like should be in that, I'm making it up, 6-1 range, goes off at 15, there's a part of me that thinks that I overestimated their actual chances. And even then, rather than actually pressing up the opinion like you're supposed to, I may only go maybe half as much as far as the full press. So instead of doubling up, maybe I only go, kind of a half up sort of situation. which I know is not actually, by the letter of the law, the right way to go about it, but it is what it is.
I can argue it in both ways. I mean, obviously, if you're confident in your pricing and you're getting more, yeah, you should be betting more. But sometimes there's real signal in the market. I mean, there's the famous story about the computer bettors first coming in. I think it was the original Benter and Woods group in Hong Kong. And when their model was just based on their, the factors of handicapping that were put into the model, it wasn't a winning formula. The winning formula came when it was a blend of looking at market signals in conjunction with the pre-handicapping. And I think there's a lesson in that. You're very wise you can't be a slave to the market, obviously, but you're very wise to consider it, especially when there are known unknowns, first-time starters, horses off layoffs, things like that. I think you're wise to, again, I'm not going to get off a horse ever because it's too big of a price. I guess, actually, that's not true. If it's a horse that's a favorite that should be bet and isn't bet, I will sometimes get off it. But if I have that 6-1 shot that you were talking about, I'm never going to get off the horse because of that. But, maybe I'm going to include a couple other backup lines or something. It does change the way I look at the world.
Spencer and I have talked about models with sports betting in the past, and I put them together for all the sports that I bet on. And a big piece or a big element of the models is exactly what you talked about, and it stems from the Benter group, however you want to phrase it. The idea of the public is still the best handicapper that there is. Why would I just willy-nilly ignore what that information is? So for my college basketball or my NHL or even our golf model that I've put together, you have to factor in what the public says and what the books say, because again, the books aren't in the business of losing money. So you just incorporate that as a piece of the totality, the ensemble, if you will, and go from there.
Let's dive into some racing for this weekend, Matt. We've got a couple of races at Oaklawn, and then we're going to talk about a couple of Triple Crown preps a little bit later on. But let's start in Arkansas, track I'm hoping to get back to this year after a couple of year absence. We'll kick on there with race number 8. We've got some graded stakes action happening, and it's a race that there's a lot to unpack. I feel like there's a lot of contenders in here. Really curious how you ended up deciding to go in this spot.
I tweeted about the idea the other day of a horse that, one of my favorite horse handicapping angles or sort of scenarios rather is a horse who is relatively close on figs, looks fantastic out on the track, but doesn't project to get such a cushy setup that they've had in their most recent run. How do you go about handling a horse like this? And this is actually the race case in point that I was talking about. I can't get away from Mariah's Princess. I don't know if she's good enough. She's the number 5. She's 5-1 on the morning line. I haven't priced the entire thing out. I will for my NBC Sports Edge article, but I just think she's looked spectacular since she came back to the races over the fall. One in a 7/8 race at Churchill Downs, the other one at Oaklawn in the Mistletoe. But she's had really, really soft fractions that she's been up close to. And I don't envision that being the case in this race on Saturday. And I'm going to be curious to see when these other girls throw a little bit of heat at her early, that she just get totally outrun, and does it sap some of that big late kick that I've seen? Because just purely on the tape, the last 2 races are far and away the best I think anybody in this race has. The question is, can she do it against better? I'm willing to find out, probably somewhere in that 4-1 range.
I definitely see that case. And I do think you've identified the key question of how's this pace going to shake out, and could that be her undoing? I like Miss Bigley with the hope that she'll be able to shut off a little bit this time and not pull up into that duel, and instead rate and get a perfect stalk and pounce type trip in behind all of that speed. I like the fact that she's worked well since the last race. That was off a brief freshening, so I think you can make the case that she's supposed to move forward. And I also don't mind this rider switch one bit for a horse I'm looking. And just generally having a rider switch with a horse you're looking for different behavior from, just logically speaking, that makes sense to me too. I like Miss Bigley. And then the other horse that I want to mess around with a little bit for horizontals, more for verticals, is number 4, Jilted Bride, with the not as commonly used as the lone speed angle, the lone closer angle. And you've got the right rider in Rosario, still a little, my head's still half of the Eclipse Awards, apparently. Rosario, obviously, great rider when it comes to rating. I want a price on Jilted Bride, but I really do like her, and I think she could be heard from, again, especially in the vertical exotics in this spot. Any other thoughts on this one before we move on to the stake later in the card?
Yeah, just the only other thing I'll add is I still don't know what I think of Coach. She's going to be the favorite in this spot. She turned away Miss Bigley, I thought, rather comfortably in that most recent run, and I loved Miss Bigley that day. I think we had chatted about it, actually, on this show that week. I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know where it came from, because I just didn't think she had ever really done anything comparable to that before. Now I want to see if she can back it up again, in all likelihood on a fast track. It's hard to ignore the fact that she's 3 for 4 and never added the exacta in 4 lifetime starts on an off track. Can she be that explosive on a fast strip, which I think we're going to get on Saturday? That to me is a question at a short price. So I'm going to fade Coach, knowing full well that she could very well beat me again.
I understand that. My initial feeling in the race was to beat her. As I look, and obviously I didn't mention her as my top 2, but if I'd listed a third, it would have been her. More of a defensive use for me, just because if she runs that last race back, she wins. And I like to lose to those horses when I have priced alternatives I'm keying with. So in verticals, in horizontal combos, where I have strong opinions in other legs, more of a backup for me, but I will try to use her, because I just feel too silly if she runs off the screen again, which is a plausible scenario here. But hopefully you're right about maybe the mud has been elevating that game. Maybe I'm not a big bounce guy, but maybe this is a situation where that last race was anomalous enough that you see some sort of regression. And yeah, this is no push over field. If she does regress, again, 4 or 5 of these can win. We'll see how it plays out in Arkansas on Saturday afternoon. Let's jump ahead to race number 10, the Grade 3 Razorback, going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt. Oh, I'll go first here. Why the heck not? I put Promise Keeper on top. I thought it was interesting item, working well for this return to the races. I think you can build in improvement for age for this runner. Should get a typical grindy forward Pletcher run. New face in a crowd where a lot of them have been trading victories, and I'm always a sucker for that new face angle in these situations. I think Promise Keeper makes sense. And then I think that Thomas Shelby is the other particularly interesting horse. Maybe a de facto rabbit for the stablemate, Lone Rock, but it might not matter. Sometimes that super aggressive front-running ride, that can just be the path to victory. Lone Rock is going to be much shorter of the two, but I think it's tricky and sharp and not a great setup necessarily for Lone Rock, as much as I love Lone Rock as a horse. Meanwhile, Shelby aggressively handled, and I could see Plainsman, the other horse that on pace figure should be up there, with Rosario up. Maybe this is where Rosario's tremendous ability to hold something for the end, maybe it gives Thomas Shelby too much rope in the spot. I like it 5-6. Where are you in the Razorback?
Yeah, it's a race. It's a really interesting race, and I'll be curious to see how the whole thing plays out. I had a hard time really getting stuck into an opinion. I landed on Plainsman, not only because of the Rosario factor and Brad Cox, obviously. I don't love the horse going 2 turns, if I'm being totally honest. I think he's better as a 1-turn miler. I thought he ran very well in the Cigar Mile behind a couple of promising Pletcher horses. I think he's done his best running at a 1-turn mile. This 1 mile and a 16th, though, I think if you're going to get a 2-turn distance for him, and I know he's won at 1 mile and an 1/8, but I think he's at his best going shorter. This, to me, is probably the max as far as my comfort zone with him. I expect him to be forwardly placed, but probably not outright on the lead. But beyond that, I just thought the race was really hard to make heads or tails of. To the point that you made about Promise Keeper, it feels like he is, if you don't love any of the sort of established form, I mean, it feels like Promise Keeper has to be the call, because I don't want to say the sky's the limit, but we don't know what this horse is capable of yet, whereas we kind of know what everybody else is. Promise Keeper could very easily be a low 100 to a mid 100 kind of horse as far as the buyers are concerned, and that buries this field. Lone Rock, to your point, I think the horse is really talented. I probably underrated him for too long, but boy, this is a sharp 8.5 for a horse that's done his best out closer to 1.5 miles. Never mind the 1.1 miles that we saw him at in that last run where he just got up in the shadow of the wire. You know, and there's fun horses in here. Rated R Superstar, he's 100 years old. He's still got a little bit of something there on the fastball. Thomas Shelby, to your point, good gas early on. He's really been a revelation since they stretched him out in distance. Last Samurai, I don't know what you want to do with him. He comes in on the heels of a victory as well. And I looked at Silver Prospector for a minute because he was impossibly wide in that most recent trip, but he's a bit of an untrustworthy type as far as the on top awards are concerned. So I just had a really hard time with the race. I landed on Plainsman, but it's probably not a race that I'm going to be betting because I don't really truly have an opinion on it.
See how it goes on Saturday, and a little bit later on Saturday night, we're going to head out to Golden Gate to look. We'll go. I don't know why I decided to do Golden Gate before Tampa, but that's what I pulled up. So that's what we're going to go with it. Again, the brain is not completely here yet. We'll go for the El Camino Real, a race that's been productive. Matt Ditterman sent out a tweet with running down some of the horses who've competed in this race, and certainly no better example than Rombauer last year using this race as a springboard and going on to win the Preakness. Not sure we're going to have a Preakness winner in here, but who knows? Definitely some interesting horses competing. It will be about 7:15 East Coast time for this one. Matt, where are you going in this race?
Well, I think you have to start with McKinnon. I think he's going to get pounded at the windows. He is a horse that I've never loved, but I have to acknowledge he's probably better than I've given him credit for. His run in the Breeders' Cup I thought was actually very good. His run in the Sham, I don't want to hold that against him. We saw Newgrange come back and win at Oaklawn last weekend or the weekend prior. The synthetic I don't think is going to be an issue. He's just going to be far too short for really any kind of interest. I thought about Blackadder for Baffert coming in from Southern California, mainly because when he broke his maiden, he put in this wicked run for about a half mile. And you don't typically see that work at Santa Anita, going 2 turns on the main track. Then I went back and looked at the charts, and on opening day, you could make up some ground if you were good enough. So maybe it's a bit of an outlier. I ended up going to the far outside, the 11, with Delmo for Doug O'Neill. This is a horse that broke his maiden in the most recent run. First time with blinkers. He had Lasix, so maybe you want to take the effort with a grain of salt. But I thought he looked really good. He was a little bit late with the lead change, but for him to finish the way that he did, to have the runner-up come back and break the maiden next out with a 75 buyer, outside draw is no bargain, but I think you're going to get a fair price on a horse that I don't think is miles behind the top 2. He definitely needs to improve and have the other 2 kind of plateau a bit, but I think the price will be right on the 11 Delmo.
We see it exactly the same way. I only was going to talk about one horse, and it was Delmo. And there's a few different things at play here. In part, the old why enter 2 when one would do comes into effect with Delmo. Just interesting that O'Neill, who obviously has McKinnon, is bringing him here at all. I thought that there's one way of looking at Delmo's form where you've got an improving type, going to be suited by the extra ground. Post shouldn't be that big a deal if they just drop back and make one run, which you can obviously do at Golden Gate on a lot of days. Horse has to get better, but I do think that double digits are going to be in play. And I'll tell you what, for the UK and Irish listeners, I bet this horse will be considerably bigger than that, fixed odds in the early betting. So I'd take a look at number 11 Delmo for a potential each way play if you have that available to you. And yeah, this isn't a horse I'd sleep on for your exotics, your golden hour, which will be covered a little bit more later in the show with Spencer and Scotty Mckeever, who's going to be here. But yeah, I'm with you on Delmo. The favorites are logical, but they just don't excite me at the price. Let's get a little bit creative. Let's move back east.
Real quick before, just how short is McKinnon? I mean, he's 8-5 on the line. I feel like he's probably odds on.
Yeah, the hockey money alone, Matt. I mean, they come firing. They come firing in the locker room for this horse. I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. I mean, this horse. No,
Eric Johnson will fire.
Yeah, they're excited about this horse, and it's a great spot on paper. He's the fastest horse, and it has the best form. So, I mean, maybe we're making the game too complicated, both being against him, but I just feel like there are enough questions to answer, and I do think you really have to pay a premium. I'm with you. I think this horse will be 4-5.
Yeah, that was kind of my gut, 4-5 somewhere in there. And I think Baffert's horse is going to take money just because it's Baffert and a Derby prep. I think the horse is going to get bet down from that 7-2. Maybe you're looking at 4-5, 5-2, and then just a giant move up into whoever the third choice ends up being.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Let's talk about Tampa Bay. The Sam F. Davis a loaded looking card at Tampa Bay. If I'm not going to be able to do much in the way of plus stuff myself this weekend being out here, but who knows? Maybe we can recruit some team members to do a special show about this Tampa card, because it is worth covering, that's for sure. And the highlight in many ways, this Triple Crown prep race, post time is 4:54. And Matt Bernier, how are we going to get paid?
At the top, we talked about the race at Oaklawn, where I really like Mariah's Princess. She needs to prove, though, that she can handle better horses and situational things. I don't know if he can handle dirt. I don't know if the pace is going to be hot enough for him on tape. And even going forward, I think God of Love is really good. Now, he has no pedigree whatsoever. There's nothing to speak of that would suggest he's going to end up being some kind of superstar. I know that Cassie has done this in the past, taken horses. I mean, we saw it with Helium last year in one of the races where, on paper, really hard to make, shows up at Tampa and runs off the screen. We've seen with War of Will in the past, he's able to take these horses that maybe in theory are better suited for synth or turf, and they end up running really well on dirt. I have no idea if this one will be able to stand up on the main track. I just think there's a lot of improvement still to come from this one. And that to me is exciting because what he's already done, I think, is really impressive. I don't love the way that he runs on the turns, but that to me is a sign of maybe of a green horse trying to figure things out. When he hits the straight, he kicks like a mule. He's 10-1. I made him 6-1. I like God of Love in here, and that's no disrespect to Classic Causeway. I think he's a really good horse. I'm hopeful the pace is hot, and I have to give God of Love a look. I think he's good here, and I think he could be good going forward.
I get it. And when I handicapped this race a couple of days ago, didn't have morning line prices. And I'm surprised that the line on God of Love is as high as 10-1. I think I didn't price it out, but just in my gut feel, I would have thought this would be about more like a 6-1 type horse. I did in the end side with Classic Causeway, though. It just looks very strong to me. And I think that these races are good and stack up well against this field. And I think they're probably a little bit better than they look at first glance, too. And that's what pushed me over the top with him. A little bit against the flow, closing last time to an impressive winner in a race that's produced good form. 2 back, went too fast, still stuck on okay to be third, running on what might not have even been the best part of the track. And the horse appears to be working forwardly as well. So I like the 3, but I don't mind your idea of God of Love in some combos to go with or to back up with. God of Love, not the kind of horse I would stake my day on. I mean, in a way, I think he's more of a win or run out kind of situation where I would construct my tickets with that in mind. Yeah, I don't want to need that horse to be second or third, like to get paid. But I do think there's a chance at some value there if that morning line guess is correct. Anything else you want to yap about here for a second, Matt, before we let you get out of here and we bring in the actual host of today's show?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add about Classic Causeway, there's a scenario in which by next Sunday, not this coming Sunday, the following Sunday, the Kentucky Jockey Club is the key race of all key races. Now, I don't know if I totally believe the White Abarrio fig from last weekend in the Holy Bull, but if Classic Causeway runs big here in this spot, and if Smile Happy does end up going and running down there at the fairgrounds next Saturday, I mean, that Kentucky Jockey Club could end up being the form that you're looking at as far as kind of being the precursor of what was to come or what we're in the midst of for the 3-year-olds, because, I mean, really those top 3, they have all looked good in all their races, and, we'll see what these 2 end up doing. But White Abarrio sure looked good last weekend. Again, I don't know if I totally buy the 97, but that doesn't mean that he didn't run well, and we'll see what happens with these 2 horses over the next week or so.
Did you notice what time form had that figure as?
Yes, roughly 10 points slower as far as the 20-point differential. So call it, off the top of my head, it was like a 106 or 107, something like that.
Gotcha. Solid, but not as spectacular
Correct.
as what came out on Bayer. So yeah, that's a race we'll be watching closely to see what happens as well. All right, Matt. Enjoy your weekend, and folks will catch you on, they catch you a lot of places. The Matt Bernier Show next week is just one of them. You've also got some written content coming up this weekend as well, right?
Yeah, good. Well, nothing. The only thing I'll have is a few race previews for NBC Sports Edge this weekend. I'll get back home. I'll do the pod on Tuesday, and then next Sunday I head out to Riyadh for the Saudi Cup, and hopefully we can get some content while we're over there as well.
Oh, that's a great idea. The team is well represented because Michelle obviously is on the broadcast, and then we got you there, and then there might be some more. There might be another appearance. I realize maybe that's not official. I shouldn't say it. There might be some other stuff going on that folks will people who will be recognized that'll be be providing content from over in Riyadh. Good stuff, my friend. We'll be talking soon.
You got it, bud.
Okay, it's baton passing time now as we bring in the actual host of the show so I can look at these Santa Anita Friday races at least a little bit. Spencer Lugenbuehl is here. Spencer, how are things?
I'm doing well, PTF. Glad to see you up and about this morning and not, still crashed in until about 9 o'clock in the morning.
That was plan A, but, we got to get to work on winning another one of these things. And you're not going to do that in bed. So, yeah, the coffee's been flowing, feeling pretty good. Could probably use a Bloody Mary. I'm not going to lie. But, that can wait a couple hours till we get over to the Logan Suite.
So I guess a couple questions just overall. One for me personally, I thought was interesting. What do you think has been more important for you in your career? Your first ever time being a New York Times bestseller or the Eclipse Awards?
What a great question. Those really are two of the things that I'm the most proud of. With no disrespect at all to the Eclipse Award, which is an incredible honor and something that means just a ton to me personally, but for having worked in book publishing for so long before I even got into racing, I mean, I was a racing fan pretty much from the start of my time in the mid 90s, really, that I got involved in publishing. But to be able to be in that position as an editor and see all these manuscripts come in and spend all this time working on other people's projects, and then to have a project that was, you really had ownership of, and to see that succeed at the highest levels, there was something pretty special about hitting that Times list with Jericho for the first time back in 2006. But I mean, this is just as special in a different way. It's one of these things where it is a really good question because I basically can't choose. But I guess if you put a gun to my head, I might go with the bestseller thing just because it felt like the payoff of more than a decade worth of work in a sense.
I like it. What overall with the awards in general, were you kind of thinking that one horse was slighted? Maybe I was really happy to see Jackie's Warrior win. I had heard some stuff with Flightline. I'm like, I've always been of the fact that I think it was Uni and Got Stormy, and Got Stormy had raced like 15, maybe not 15, but like 10 times that year. Uni ran 4 times. I want to give it to horses that have run. Really, I think if they should run once a quarter, so 4 starts minimum would really be how I would look at the Eclipse Awards to win something. I know Love's Only You won with only the 1 or 2 starts in, and it's just I want to know what your ideas were on if there were any horses that you kind of think got the short end of the stick.
I feel like the judges got it right. I say judges, the voters got it right in every category, and there were some tough ones.
Yes,
but I'm with you. When I spoke with Jay Privman earlier in the week and we went over the ballots, I want to reward that body of work. It would have been terrible to me to have Latruska or Jackie's Warrior, horses that put in full campaigns, get slighted. I love the Breeders' Cup. The Breeders' Cup win to me, it's worth, I think we said on the show with Jay, in my personal calculus would be worth maybe 2 grade 1s, but it's not worth, 3, 4, 5. It's incredible honor, but it's an honor in and of itself. And if you start giving every Eclipse Award to the Breeders' Cup winner, then why have the Eclipse Awards just make the divisional champion the horse that won at the Breeders' Cup? I think the voters showed exactly what you're talking about, a respect for the year in total. If anybody has a gripe, I could make you a case that Medina Spirit was slighted. I would have voted for Essential Quality, but I could see the connections of that horse saying, well, wait a second, we faced him twice and we beat him twice. How is he the horse of the year? But of course, you can't look at that situation without looking at it in totality. And of course, the controversy surrounding him and the positive in the Derby redounded to his detriment, as it should have. So, I think that really the judges did a great job. And the Love's Only You one was very, very interesting. That's one where the campaign idea would have favored Warlike Goddess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just depends. If you're looking at the awards, if you look at the worldwide achievements of Love's Only You, if those count, and this was a historic deal, having Japan win a Breeders' Cup race. It was voted Moment of the Year, the Japanese success at the Breeders' Cup for a reason. That would have been probably the single hardest award for me to vote for between those two. I think they were both absolutely deserving. I don't mind at all them going with Love's Only You, but actually, if you were to make me pick one horse that probably deserved an award that didn't get one, it might be Warlike Goddess.
I think for me too, overall, I thought 3-year-old male was going to be super tough. I was a little bit sad to not see a horse, split essential and essential quality, Amity and Spirit. I thought maybe Hot Rod Charlie, a horse like that, who just ran so well in the Belmont, almost too good to lose. But that's why we have these awards, and I'm super happy. I'm happy for you guys to get your award. It's we always talk about, we were, the one-time award winning. Now we're 2. Now we're 3-time award winning. I mean, it's just up and up and up. It seems for the crew here in the money.
Well, thank you so much, Spencer. It's been so great having you as a part of the team from very early on, and you're doing such a great job over at Redboard Rewind, which people should definitely be checking out. And the great thing about Redboard Rewind, and we see this in the numbers, they keep growing. It's interesting. Even shows where we just handicap the back catalog, as it were, keeps growing. But Redboard Rewind especially, because you're doing such a good job covering these evergreen concepts. And yeah, we're going to have, when we're back in the bunker, actually the Eclipse Award itself is going to make a little detour to England for some photo opportunities. But before too long, we're going to have some extra hardware in the background at the bunker. And I'm very proud of that. And as I say in my little intro to the newsletter this week, the In the Money newsletter, it all happens because of the people watching and listening and enabling us to do what we do. So thanks profoundly to all of them as well. Today's show also brought to you in part by our friends at Adelphi Racing, a new kind of horse racing partnership. Lots of communication, lots of access to other partners, trainers, important members of the team. We're going to be doing more with Adelphi here at In the Money Media. If you're looking to get involved on the horse ownership side of things, you're going to want to check them out. For more information, go to adelphiracing.com.
Well, thank PTF so much for joining me on that quick segment there, talking about the Eclipse Awards. And now I want to bring in one of my best horse racing friends. It's not a Friday show without him. John Pinder. John, how are you today?
I'm good, Spence. How are you? Wait. I forgot to call you Mr. Luganbuehl.
Mr. Luganbuehl. Now, the main question I have to ask before we get into the racing, how did your barbecue contest go?
It went well. We didn't take any ribbons home, but we had a darn good time, and we threw back a couple of adult beverages at some point over the 3-day weekend. So it was good. My ribs turned out good. So they individualized the competition, and I was in charge of ribs. I think I placed in the top third. So there were approximately about 300 teams. I think I finished somewhere on 92, 93. So
listen, that's not bad. It's third. It's almost like third place, top 30 percentile.
I like the way you think.
Listen, I'm originally from Texas. You bring me down, we'll get those ribs up into medal contention for sure next year.
All right, sounds good.
Well, we're gonna talk Sam Houston late pick 5. Let's start it off right now with race number 6. It's state bred N1X allowance, 6 furlongs on the dirt. What are we starting off in here, John?
We're going to start out here, Spence. This is one of the races that I'm going to use the number 2 Hewlin, but I don't know if this gelding's going to be a lone A for me in here. It's really good form, but he's been a beaten favorite the last 2 out, and including an attempt at this distance 2 back. So, but it's hard to leave him out. So I'm gonna, depending on how scratches and everything shake out between now and race day, either be an include, like maybe on a single ticket, and then play some long shots underneath. If not, no offense to he and his connections, but really would like to see the number 3 Mac Be Quick. He's going to be one of my ones that I lean on in this leg, get off to a good start. This horse is second out for Mindy Willis, and she's bringing him back 13 days after he was just beat. So, and keeps Stuart Elliott in the irons. Never been off the board in 4 lifetime starts, and broke his maiden at Sam Houston. So it looks to be tough. And then maybe a little bit of a price depending on how the public is playing this race. Number 1, Luke Silver, is making his 3rd start for trainer Amanda Barton, and she's bringing him back really quickly. 7 days ago, or I'm sorry, 1 week ago. 7 days, 8 days. But he likes to close, and I think we'll get a good pace set up from this race based on how it looks. There's a few runners in here that want to go to the front but can't hold it. So all of that being said, Spence, A's in this race with me for be 3 and 1, and 2 would be a B.
You kind of talked me into, and we pretty much have the same horses. I didn't want to use the 1 because I just can't go with the top 3 horses in one leg. I just have to kind of feel like I have to pick and choose and just figure it out. The number 2, Hewlin, for me, the fact that we see slow pace figures scares me to single. I want to use as a backup just in case gets by Mac Be Quick. But that last race, showing those fast fractions and being able to hold on as well, I always look at that as when you see a horse like number 2, Hewlin, who has blue pace fractions, this horse should put this one away pretty easily and be able to hang on as well. Like he's been able to show that previously. Nothing really else much to talk about here. The 3 low 60s in those last 2 races just fit really well within the buyer par for Mac Be Quick. And obviously we have some higher 60s from Hewlin, but with the pace advantage, I think he kind of knocked those buyers down to mid 60s. And then it just becomes, once the points are pretty much the same, it becomes luck of the draw, how they end up if a horse breaks bad. So I am going to use the number 2 Hewlin as a B. I'm going to stick with the number 3 as my lone A in Mac Be Quick. Let's move on to race number 7, a maiden claiming 50,000, 1 mile on the turf. There wasn't much in here for me. I'm singled. What about you, John?
Let's see. I did not single in here, Spence. I've got one, the long shot possibility I'll talk about, but I did not single the 1, Miss Wow Wow, but I definitely going to have her on the ticket. Closed with purpose last time out, just missed, earning a respectable figure. Steps up today, but she's got the top jockey trainer combo, so she projects to do well in here. Number 6, Cold Night Air, is another one that I wanted to include. She tried the turf first time out last time and almost won after settling from off the pace and just tired, and that was off a 7-month layoff. So Broberg is strong in a lot of categories, but second off the layoff is one of his best, so couldn't leave her out. And then the 4 is going to be a long shot that I'll throw at you to see if what you think about. This horse is attempting the turf for the first time, and Amanda Barton, her trainer, has a small sample size with grass runners for the first time, but that are off the charts. Dam has 5 winners from 6 starters, one of those being a turf. So I would want to throw the number 4, dial it in as a possible contender to spice things up here. What do you think, Spence?
Dial it in for me is just one needing the fast paces. I don't know how fast we're going to get here in this mile race. I do love Chris S being in the pedigree along with dialed in. Should be okay for turf. Miss Wow Wow, listen, Redboard Rewind, we talk about it. Don't want to take horses first time surface a lot of the time. The 320 Tomlinson for this one, Sky Mesa. I think this one will handle the turf just fine. And this is one that is dropping, and there's only a couple others. This is the only one that really showed a decent run at the maiden special weight level. So I think when you see that second and you see that drop in class, the surface is a little bit scary to look at. But for me, Miss Wow Wow, I want to keep this ticket pretty short and tight like we talked about in the first race. Maybe I do end up going 3 deep in that race. I want to stay singled here so I can spread out in later races if need be. Let's move on to race number 8 from Sam Houston. It is a state bred N2L 10,000 claimer, 6.5 on the dirt. How we surviving this leg, John?
Surviving this leg, I'm gonna try and dodge a favorite here again. Really gonna lean on the number 7, Miss MJ. This homebred is coming off a long layoff for J.L. Caldwell. Showed good speed and stamina at this mid-range distance at Lone Star back in the spring, and now she drops into the claiming ranks where she broke her maiden. Another positive is that I like that the trainers had her here at Sam Houston since about mid-December, based upon the workout tabs, but hadn't shown up in a race, but now shows here. So 7 is going to be my A. Can't really get around the 1A if she goes She's an Angel, making a third start off the layoff for Asmussen, and has just drops into this level. Seems like she should really be able to do it at here. And then the number 8, My Baby Blue. Her past performance don't look very good, but she won first out as a 4-year-old last year at Lone Star, and then she went into some open company and really didn't do it. Last time out turf, she was like, no sir, no ma'am. But now gets back to this state restricted company, and I think could be dangerous at a price.
In this race, I was trying everything to not play the 1 or the 1A. I think I'm still going to pass and hopefully just survive the 1A on a shorter ticket. Maybe I should spread here, but then I'm going 3 deep, and I've already got some chalk earlier on. I thought She's a Hunk to number 5 was kind of interesting, coming off the trainer chains for Brent Davidson, who is a very good turf to dirt, 25%, $4 ROI. That's extremely well, and he does super solid off layoffs like this. And the 52 2-back at Remington. Listen, I mean, this horse can just show that it can run its best race at 6. I wonder what we get off the layoff. Now it's also in the new barn, so hopefully She's a Hunk can do some damage in this race. Also, like you had said, Miss MJ for all you Spider-Man fans out there. And then the maiden win was solid at Lone Star at 7. Then they go from a 56 to a 38. They go 5.5. Then they go on the turf. Obviously, the turf is not what they want, or something went wrong at that time. I agree with you in everything that you'd said. J.R. Caldwell, super good off the layoff. Plus 180, he has a positive ROI, which is a very, very difficult stat to do. I think the only other one I can really think of would be Pletcher, having a pretty good sample size in that. And listen, Lane Luzzy and J.R. Caldwell are 24% with a $2 ROI so far at this meet. Take it for what you will. When you're trying to beat a favorite, sometimes the jockey and trainer combinations do matter. Give me Miss MJ, the 7, and the number 5, She's a Hunk, as my 2 A's. So on to race number 9. Maiden special weight, 1 mile on the turf course. How are we going to get through to the finale here, John?
Here, 2 or 3 potentially I want to give out. Number 5, Light Cruiser. It's coming off an 8-month layoff. Moves to a new barn that has a positive ROI with that category. If he runs back to the previous form, he could win for fun. First time starter number 3, Asmussen Elliott. We could move on from there, but this is a really well-bred horse. Frankel out of a Tappet mare, and seems to be training well. So don't know if you can get around that. And then the one more would be the number 9, Optimal Trip. Second off the layoff. Had a good race at this distance last time out and just got tired. Looks to improve after that and gets Mr. Uckleberry in the saddle for the second time. So in here it would be 5, 3, 9 for me, Spin.
I'm going to talk about Brentley real quick, and this is just something. I've been a diehard Steve Asmussen fan for most of my life. I think this horse will get bet down. A, it's Asmussen. B, the sire Frankel. Everyone wants to bet a Frankel horse. Steve is not good first time out. 12%, less than $1 ROI. It's not like you want to see him with the gun runner type going long in the dirt, not these middling distances on the turf. I just wonder if this one just takes a little bit too much money in what looks to be kind of a wide open affair. A horse like the number 4, Carol Warrior, 0 for 12, and I usually don't like taking maidens that are 0 for 10 or higher, but this one, 4 board hits in 5 starts on the turf. Obviously, they have found the right surface, and this one hasn't been on the turf for a couple starts, so sometimes a lot of people just look at that last race, 47, it looks ugly. This one is 67 and 64s, 3 and 4 back at pretty much the same level at a different track in Lone Star Park. I really like Carol Warrior in this one. Also, Lane Luzzy, J.R. Caldwell, maybe you can hit back-to-back for me. Light Cruise is another one. Ariama, Clinton Stewart. 9 tries. I just think when you see these buyers and you're trying to beat a first-time starter, if these horses can run within the buyer par and there's at least 2 or more, a lot of first-time starters have to be really, really have the goods to win. So if anybody is going to, even not play the pick 5, I would play pick 3s through this race. I would play doubles through this race. I think this is the most vulnerable favorite in the sequence in race number 9, that being the number 3, Bentley. Number 5, Light Cruiser. Number 4, Carol Warrior for me. Also, maybe a little bit of Optimal Trip as a B. I just don't want to take too many short prices. This is 9-2. That's 61 last time out. Maybe Lee Rossi can get this one. He is 0 for 14 on the turf. Maybe this one can kind of surprise and jump up again off the layoff second time out. Let's move on to the final leg of Sam Houston, race number 10, 10,002L, 6 furlongs on the dirt. How are we getting paid, John? Just like the pick fraud from Gulfstream the other week.
Let's do it, and then I'll tell you a funny story about that pick five after I tell you who's gonna get us paid here. You can single. I know you've been trying to keep this ticket down. Number 8, Queen of the Lane, looks to be the queen of this field from a class perspective, dropping down 2 class levels essentially. This will be her third time over the track. Seems to be getting back to the surface that she prefers. But you can have a little bit of seconditis. But if you want to keep it short and simple, you could just go with the 8. I'm going to throw 2 more in. The number 7, Taylor's Vision. It's really hard trying 4-year-old filly that's been competitive in all her races. And then I can't not do a show and not talk about my favorite jockey name, Mr. Leonardo Goncalves. He stays aboard, and I anticipate that one to do well. And then the last for me would be Patricia, number 2, ran against Tougher in the Great Northwest up at Emerald Downs. Second time off the layoff, could be in with a chance. Just if you're looking for something else to try and make this payoff a little bit better, I'd throw the 2 in there.
I'm going to try to fade the 8 here. Just the fact you said seconditis has been a favorite in the last 2 and lost both. I know one was on the turf, so you can kind of cross that out. And is obviously class dropping. I just wondered, it's been a couple of races since this one obviously has been on the turf more than not. I wonder why J.R. Caldwell had this one on the turf so much. Maybe he just doesn't think he'll like the dirt. Now they just have nowhere else to go with this one. I'm going to try and take a shot with Taylor's Vision here. Like you had said, just in the money, 3 of the last 4. That maiden wins, nothing to scoff at. And this has all been done since the last time this horse was laid off way back in May of last year. I think you have a couple of the allowance tries are okay. Goncalves stays on. It's always a bunch of good stuff to look at. 3 seconds and 4 tries at the distance, 2 for 2 in the money at Sam Houston. I want to try and get Taylor's Vision into the winner's circle. And Patricia L's another one. This one is the class dropper of the 2 that I'm going to take. Had that nice maiden win. Then ended up in 3rd place by a long way in a listed stake at Emerald Downs. I just wonder if this one's a little bit back class here. Now drops in for 10-2. Obviously, I think we'll get claimed, but maybe we can get to the winner's circle with Patricia L. Before we send you away, John, let's hear the story about the Gulfstream Park Pick 5.
So I always try and do my best on when I do my write-ups for the listeners and or the guys who go out to the pod. So I do the write-up, and my kid has a tournament that day, and so I'm there and I'm sitting, and the team's continuing to do well. I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to get this ticket in. So I was like, it is what it is. I get to the track, sure enough, the Holy Bull's about to start. So I play a double, and I'm sitting there. I do well on that race, and I also hit the double and say, you know what, let me go back and look. And sure enough, the Pick 5 hits, and I have no part of it.
Well,
but
I mean, how'd they do in the tournament though? That's what really matters.
They finished second in the tournament.
Okay.
So I told my son, they always tell me, Dad, thank you for this, thank you for that. And I'm like, hey, pay me back. So I told my son, hey, look, you owe me $5,400 because you made me miss this Pick 5.
Oh, that's too great. I do want to thank my friend John Pinder for coming on and spend some time with the Sam Houston late Pick 5. Good luck to you. Good luck to all the players with this bet on this Saturday.
One more note from our friends over at Santa Anita. You can play in Santa Anita's Pickum contest, combining sports and horse racing props every Saturday, Sunday, and holiday Monday through April 17th with $20,000 in prize money. It's time to play and sign up for free at santaanita.com/Pickum.
Now let's welcome in my next guest, Scotty Mckeever of EquinEdge. Scotty's playing hurt off the bench for us today. I appreciate you coming on, my man.
Well, good to be here. And I ended up getting sick in Vegas at the NHC. I know a lot of people that ended up getting COVID from there. And I guess people coming from all over, that's probably bound to happen. But feeling a little bit better, but glad to be here. And first thing I've done since I got back from Vegas.
Super excited to have you on. We're covering the Golden Hour late pick 4. Let's get her started. Race number 1 is a maiden special weight going 1 mile. What do you like in this one, Scotty?
So Pratt gets off of the 1 and the 6. Okay, both of them are Baffert horses, both disappointed. Went back, watched the race replays of both of those. Didn't really love those. I don't think that he's, the one horse was really interesting. I mean, that horse really disappointed as the big favorite, and big strides on Kerouac. But at the end of the day, the horse just literally stopped at the top of the stretch. So I don't know. Something's amiss there, Spencer. So, and I can't imagine that Flavian Pratt would get off of that horse and end up on the 4-horse Got Thunder for John Sadler. So, and they're 42% jockey trainer combination, 41%. So, I think Got Thunder is the horse to beat. My only concern with Got Thunder, the 4-horse, who's 45% to win on our numbers, is that maybe the horse runs its best on the lead. Has 2 second-place finishes here, going a mile at this distance, and if that happens, maybe just take a look at the 2-horse cover up. I think the 4 could be a single. I'm not sure if the horse can rate. So, and there's some speed in this race. A sense of dominance is very, very fast. Cover up is probably the fastest horse in the race. So I think the 2 might send. 2 could get away, and we'll see. But I'm using the 2 and the 4 in my golden hour.
I kind of thought the same way. You kind of talked me into now using the 4 as a B. I couldn't agree with you more on the 2. I just think the fact that we have improving numbers, second start to the third start. I like the speed there. I like the fact this one's already gone a mile. With Got Thunder, Pratt jumps on. That's already going to kill the price more. This horse has lost twice as a favorite. Was it race number 1? If it's race number 1, he wins. If it's that second race, it's wide open. I don't like taking 6 to 5 shots with that kind of inclination in my brain. Everyone else here, listen, they kind of seen a little bit. Noble Union was another one, but he has 340s and 170 for a buyer. And I just wonder if we kind of know that he'll have that once in a while jump up start where he runs very well. But I think that one showing the other 3 bad starts. For me, it's going to be Cover Me Up. And then the number 4 Got Thunder. Let's move on to the second race of the Golden Hour late pick 4. It's the 100,000 El Camino Real Derby, 1 miles on the synth. What do we like in this one, Scotty?
Well, this is a wide open race. The only 3 horses I could confidently eliminate were the 5, 8, and 9. I don't love the 11 Delmo only because of the wide post. It's very, very difficult to win from that post here, and literally has 0 speed. Horses come from behind here at Golden Gate Fields, but not usually from really far back. So maybe in a wide open race, that's a horse you can throw out. Other than that, I really found it difficult. I decided to throw out the 10, the 11, and of course the 5, 8, and 9, who I originally talked about there. And I'm going to use the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Anything else I would say in this race, honestly, I just think the race is wide open and anything can happen. There doesn't seem like a lot of pace. I think Bellator, the 10 horse, could get the lead. Stormy Samurai from the inside could get the lead if it wanted. So we'll see what happens. But this race looks wide open to me.
I'm staying away from McKinnon. I'm trying to beat favorites today. I kind of don't want this one who ran the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, never been on the synthetic. We don't really know what to expect. Listen, Farrow has done perfectly well as a turf sire. He's done okay even as a synthetic sire. I like Stormy Samurai. He kind of has the same numbers from a sire for Samurai being 20% synthetic route, same as American Pharaoh. Why not get 8-1 instead of 8-5? I just kind of think when we're looking at just those basic numbers, seems to be a little bit of an in and outer, but I like the fact that he's stretching out, might show a tad bit more speed like that race 3 back, and this one might be able to get a little bit going on the brow from the inside. I thought Boise, the number 6 for Jonathan Wong. If you look back at the 2 stake tries, one at a turf, one going a mile on the synth, I just don't want to toss out a guy like Jonathan Wong who just does so well here, 23%. He's 28% with Elvin Roman. I want to use a little bit of the 1 and the 6 here going forward, trying to beat the number 2 McKinnon. Let's move on to race at number 3 of the Golden Hour. It's the Grade 3 Sweet Life from Santa Anita, 6.5 on the turf. Scotty, how are we starting off this second leg from Santa Anita, or third leg?
Did you see I Got a Gal, the 3 horse? Did you see that last race? I mean, that was really incredible. Stumbled at the start, then was completely last, and then went wide, went around, and just went right by the front runners to get in front and then sustain that long bid. to go gate to wire and actually pull away. It was so impressive. Now, I know that was just a maiden special weight, but that was really incredible for Peter Ayrton. Umberto could have really gotten, his jumps aboard here actually, but that was just an incredible ride. What's interesting though is JJ Hernandez gets off to ride the 2-horse Araka, right? So I'm wondering, what's the upside of this too? I was extremely impressive with the first-time starter last time out, Kitty Katana, the 7-horse for Phil D'Amato. I mean, that horse, broke slow and then had to pull up on the backside and then went wide and made a move and barely lost to the eventual winner who's in here as well, Urban. So, I mean, it looks like an absolute wide open race to me, but I'm going to use 3 horses, 2, 3, 7, and 9. And believe it or not, I think there's some serious upside to Kitty Katana, the 7-horse. I really do. That was a really impressive effort for a first-time starter, having all those issues and going, I think this is the real deal. Comes back at the surface and distance. I actually thought about singling Kitty Katana.
I like the way you think. Kitty Katana for me as well as one of my runners. Listen, when I started doing stuff for Scott Shapiro on Chapter to Capper years ago, Phil D'Amato was the turf sprint specialist. He still is. 28%, $3 ROI. When you have a lot of people say they struggle with these types of races, it's just you kind of have to look at where, certain trainers are maybe 20% on turf, but they're 10% route, 30% sprint. I really like the fact that this one comes right back. Also in a grade 3 off a maiden win. A lot of times you see the allowance first. Maybe there wasn't one to fill. Who knows? But like to see that, especially with Johnny V getting aboard as well. I also thought Araka. I like the jockey change. Manny Franco obviously doesn't come over. Graham Motion. Like if you watch Naira, if you're a new time person to horse racing, this guy really knows how to get these grass horses to go. Hasn't won a turf sprint recently, so you kind of look at, Phil D'Amato being so well, him not so well, but I like the breeding here. Dan Sill on the bottom. I just wonder if this one off the layoff, off those 2 impressive races since coming over from France, if this one can also have a nice little forward show. I got a gal. I'll give it to you. I'm going to also include this one as a B as well. It's one of the last leg. Scotty, this race 4 of the Golden Hour Late Pick 4, 50,000 starter allowance. How are we getting paid?
Well, the 3-horse Trash Talking Cat got beat last time out against Similar, but this one needs the lead, in my opinion. And today it's going to get it. It's going to be very, very clear. There is no other pace in this race. It really has things its own way. I think that the 3 can win this race for sure. Champagne Pegasus is going to definitely be probably your favorite. It's 9-2 on the odds makers morning line. I'm going to take Trash Talking Cat to go gate to wire. I'm not going to single it. I am going to add 1 horse. I'm going to add the 4-horse Harbor Sky, who's the EquinEdge long shot play. And I'm going to add that horse only because 2 races back, it stumbled at this surface and distance. First time on the synthetic. The horse has synthetic, a little bit of synthetic breeding. Not a ton, but does have some. But I do think if there's anybody that's going to beat the 3-horse Trash Talking Cat, which is going to really have his way, I maybe add Harbor Sky, but Trash Talking Cat's going to be very, very tough gate to wire.
For me, I'm going to try and go a little bit of a different way. 1 for 22. Obviously, can go gate to wire on Trash Talking Cat. I just don't like the seconds and thirds. This one may end up quitting a little bit down the lane. I thought maybe Vintage Point, number 6, and Sugar Beats might be a little bit interesting. We'll talk Vantage Point first. Just the fact this one has been racing at this kind of level and has shown a couple races, a couple seconds, that this class level might be exactly what this 4-year-old gelding needs. And then number 7, Sugar Beats, coming off the maiden win, then coming off another N2L win. I wonder if this one just coming up into this level, listen, not up for a tag anymore. Jack Steiner, really solid, 26% in the synth, 23% when they win last time out with a positive ROI. I think that they know they have something here with Sugar Beats. That'll be my top pick, 7 and 6 in the final leg. Scotty, I want to thank you so much for coming in, hurt off the bench. Appreciate it, and good luck this week with the Golden Hour Late Pick 4.
All right, really appreciate that. Thanks, Spencer. You too.
I want to thank all of our guests for coming out on this week's In the Money Media podcast. The 3-time award winner, PTF, NBC's Matt Bernier, John Pinder with the Sam Houston Late Pick 5, and Scotty Mckeever talking the Golden Hour Late Pick 4. The show has been a production of In the Money Media. In the Money Media's president is Pierre Thomas Fornatale. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin, and our In the Money Media business manager is Drew Coatney. I'm Spencer Luganbuehl. and we will see you next time.